More deadly chaos in Gaza this Saturday. Local officials say at least 18 more Palestinians were killed, including aid seekers near distribution sites. Among the dead, children, entire families, and displaced civilians, with IDF strikes in Khan Yunis, Zawaida, and Dar al-Balah. The UN has warned of the risk of famine, with 7 more malnutrition-related deaths in the past 24 hours. Calls have also grown louder for land access to replace failing airdrops, while Germany has confirmed very insufficient aid is entering Gaza. Some 6,000 UN trucks are reportedly still waiting for Israel's permission to enter. Let's get the latest now with Noga Tarnopolsky. She joins us from Jerusalem. Noga, just on the point of these 6,000 aid trucks, do we know of any further movement given what we're hearing from the United Nations, the real risk of famine edging ever closer?
We don't have more information about those aid trucks, Jean-Emile, and in fact it is perplexing. We know that there were several weeks of a kind of public tit for tat between the Israeli army that accused the UN of refusing to send trucks to pick up this great accumulation of aid that was just festering under the sun across the border in Gaza, and the UN responding that Israel was not allowing them to bring the products in. Subsequently, just a week ago, Israel announced that it would secure humanitarian corridors for the UN trucks to be able to go in. And we found out that that really was the heart of the problem, that the drivers employed by the UN were too afraid to drive these trucks in, afraid of being attacked, of being looted by a desperate population, really. And so it appeared for a while as if that issue had been resolved. We know that yesterday 200 trucks did get in. That too is a paltry figure, but at least trucks were able to get in. And today we've heard of no trucks. And the Israeli army has not responded to my requests to find out more about what exactly is going on there at the border.
Noga, this is all coming as Germany, one of Israel's traditional allies, says that the aid is very insufficient. How does Israel plan to respond to its allies when they are lambasting it so heavily and also basing a lot of their recognition of Palestinian statehood on the actions of Israel, given what's going on with the aid?
Well, Israel is responding in a pretty harsh and undiplomatic way so far. I have to say, 2 days ago, the German foreign minister was in town visiting in Jerusalem, and he met, in fact, with Netanyahu just hours after one of Netanyahu's ministers accused Germany of reverting to Nazism because of the German decision to eventually, not even immediately, but eventually recognize a Palestinian state. The reactions have been extreme. Prime Minister Netanyahu himself and his foreign minister accused French President Macron of being accomplices with terror because France announced that it planned to recognize a Palestinian state. There haven't been any substantial responses regarding what a Palestinian state would mean to Israel from anybody in the government. It's just been this one kind of eruption of anger. And for the Israeli population, I think the entire question surrounding Palestinian statehood or not is just confusing rather than anything else. And it does not feel to most Israeli civilians, just regular people, as if it's connected in any way to what they're going through right now.
Noga, thank you so much for just outlining that. Please stay with us because we're going to get more from reaction on the ground right now with Ruth James. She's the London Regional Humanitarian Coordinator for the Middle East and North Africa at Oxfam International. Ruth, just before I get to our first question, I just want to play for our viewers one of the reactions of a Palestinian, a desperate Palestinian, talking about the dangers around the airdrops which are just taking place across the strip right now. Let's hear from them.
Is what they are dropping enough for the people or to feed the people? I'm an injured person and I cannot run. For 8 days since the airdrops began, my 9 children and I have not received a single grain of rice from this aid.
My children sleep without food, or if I can find something or beg from my neighbors, I will. And sometimes I send my son and tell him to beg from houses, bring a loaf of bread, rice to cook, just for his little sister, thank God. But I'm unable to do much more than that.
Ruth, we've recently heard from your organization that what is going on in Gaza is engineered starvation, and just hearing those testimonies from families right now, what can you add to that?
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Let's be very clear. What we are seeing unfold in Gaza right now and what was confirmed by the UN this week is that famine is unfolding. It's not pending anymore, it's happening. People are starving to death as we speak. Children are starving to death as we speak. And I want to be really, really clear. This is not a drought situation. This is entirely preventable famine that we are witnessing in front of us, that the whole world is witnessing, quite frankly, and standing by doing nothing. As you've mentioned, there are thousands and thousands of tons worth of humanitarian aid just waiting at the borders of Gaza. As a humanitarian community, we have, I believe, over 400,000 pallets worth of aid. Oxfam ourselves, we have thousands and thousands of food parcels right now in our warehouse in Amman. They've been there for months. We've submitted multiple requests to the Israeli authorities to bring those food parcels into Gaza, and they have been denied with a 4-word answer saying food is not the priority. I've seen this on a computer. That's the reason for the rejection. Food is not a priority. Meanwhile, children are starving to death inside of Gaza. I want to be really, really clear. This is entirely preventable. It's not only about food. There is nothing entering Gaza right now. No soap, no hygiene items, no sanitary pads for women. And by the way, they haven't been entering for months. No shelter, no education materials. There is literally nothing, and barely any medicine is allowed to enter. What we are seeing unfold right now is this systematic destruction or the systematic blockade of every single thing that a human being needs to survive. And that is why we believe in Oxfam that Israel is carrying out genocide right now inside of Gaza, and that Israel and its supporters, including, unfortunately, my own government here in the UK, are complicit in that genocide.
And what do you tell to your government to alleviate the situation? What is it within your power?
I'm sorry?
What would you say to the UK government right now if you were sitting face to face with Prime Minister Starmer?
I mean, they need to stop selling parts of weapons which they're selling, which are being used to kill civilians on a daily basis. But not only that, we need real political pressure on the Israeli authorities to open the gates. It's very simple. People are starving to death. They are dying and they don't need to. And we as humanitarian actors, we are ready to work. We're not an organization, Oxfam, we're not new to this. We know what we're doing. We've been in Gaza and in Palestine for decades. We're able to work. We know the communities. We're able to make sure that aid reaches those who need it the most. We're desperate. Me and my colleagues are desperate to get back to work. It's all we want to do. We want to save lives. Please let us get back to work.
Ruth, when you hear a statement like food is not a priority and just so bluntly laid out for you like that, what kind of hard statistics can you take and show that, in fact, that is not the truth?
I mean, you've just shown, I've seen all your the images that you've just shown right now. You can see people are starving. You said, I think 7 or 8 people have died just today from malnutrition. We believe that over 200,000 people have probably died. We have the numbers of people that have died by, bombing and things like that. But there are many, many other people that die from a lack of access to medicine, hunger, malnutrition complications. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people that are being killed. But not only that, just to give you one example, I heard from a colleague, blood is something that's obviously in high demand because so many people are being, blown up, and people are desperate to go and donate blood. And what many, many people are being told is that they're too malnourished to donate blood. Their blood doesn't have all the right nutrients in it, and they can't give it. Starvation is it doesn't happen overnight. It's a very slow and horrible and painful way to die. And before you die, your organs are damaged and your chance of making a full recovery is limited. So even if we're allowed now to bring in all of the aid that we want to, there is a lot of people that will be living with lifelong complications as a result of this starvation that's being enforced on them.
Ruth, as you're speaking, I do find myself just shaking my head in disbelief. I just want to take this now to Noga. in terms of an Israeli reaction, how Israelis themselves are buying this narrative of the government saying that hunger is not, or food is not a priority in the Gaza Strip.
Well, it's fascinating to hear that Oxfam received that response from the Israeli army, because I have not been able to receive even a response like that. I have found the Israeli army completely opaque when asked any questions about these aid trucks. The Israeli government has been very confused in its messaging regarding the situation of hunger and famine in Gaza. In English, for example, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu acknowledged that the situation is very difficult in Gaza, and he asked for the nations of the world to, quote, join Israel in attempting to get aid into Gaza. But in Hebrew, we still see the Israeli media itself, the independent media, really casting doubts. On the one hand, acknowledging that there's famine, something the government hasn't really done in the local language, but on the other hand, continuing to cast doubts on the veracity and on the depth of the problem. So it's an extremely confused message. And ironically, the images that Israelis have seen in the last 48 hours of their own hostages, of Israeli citizens taken hostage by Hamas who are starved in their captivity, which does not appear to be a result of the lack of food in Gaza, but the result of a direct effort by Hamas to starve them. Those images have had quite an impact in persuading Israelis that there is widespread hunger in Gaza.
Ruth James, we're talking about famine and widespread hunger. Just if I can get some clarity, it might seem a bit trite, but in terms of the clarification of what constitutes famine, and when there is going to be an absolutely universal understanding that famine is taking place in Gaza, what does your organization say?
Famine works along three criteria. One of them is to do with the malnutrition rate. One of them is to do with the number of deaths per 10,000 people per day. And the third one is to do with something that we call the hunger level being it's level 5, which is catastrophe. My understanding is that 2 of the 3 criteria are being met in certain areas of Gaza, and it's not the case. We don't know that the other criteria aren't being met. It's just that we don't have the data available to prove it. The UN body that declares famine is, understandably wants to make sure that they have all their data available, and I can prove it before they declare a full-blown famine. But what they did say this week is that they believe famine is unfolding, and they believe that once they are able to collect the data, and if they are ever able to collect the data, because of course they need Israeli permission to be able to enter and do that, that they will likely be able to declare famine.
That blockade is what we're seeing leading to other methods of aid trying to bypass, at least on the ground, that restriction. And we have seen that through the airdrops, and we have also noted Oxfam saying that these airdrops are largely insufficient. I'm assuming that position has remained unchanged despite other countries joining in.
Airdrops, frankly, are ridiculous in a context of Gaza. We only use airdrops as humanitarian actors when we can't reach somewhere because of, maybe there's an earthquake, or it's a very mountainous area and there really is no on-ground access. To drive our food parcels from Amman to Gaza would take us about 4 to 6 hours. The road is there. It's a good road. I've been along it. It's only, the road is not so good once you get inside of Gaza, but to get to the edge of Gaza, it's very easy. There's absolutely no reason to use airdrops. And the second, one of the many issues with airdrops, but one of the biggest issues, is that you cannot reach the most vulnerable people and the hungriest people by dropping food randomly here and there. And it's dropped with a parachute, which means the wind can blow it around. Much of it is landing in so-called, evacuated areas or red zones where people cannot access. And if they do try and access, it's very likely that they'll be shot and killed by the Israeli military. There is absolutely no reason to do airdrops when, as I've said, we have hundreds of thousands of pallets of aid waiting on trucks right there at the border. Gaza is a very small area of land, right outside it in Egypt and in Israel and in Jordan. We have plenty of aid that we just need the gates to open so that we can bring it in. Airdrops are, quite frankly, something that might look good on TV, but they are never going to be able to even come close to preventing famine unfolding further in Gaza.
And those airdrops even leading to injuries in some cases where they land on people. Ruth James, thank you so much for just outlining the position of Oxfam here on France 24.